We have Ken Morrison, and he's going to be speaking to us beyond voice and choice, from cute cliché to classroom culture. Let's give Morrison a TETC welcome as he takes over his session.
Oh, I'm here. Hi there.
Okay, awesome.
And I'll just need a little bit
I
of
see your
help to
video
make
though.
sure. Yeah, I'll try to share my entire screen. Might be a bit of double
All right.
feedback now. Are you able to see?
Not yet.
Oh, really?
Let me go
Okay.
off.
Oh, I see the permission up here. So I'm sharing the entire screen. Can you see it now?
Okay, yes, you can see your screen.
All right. Hello, everyone. I I was lucky to work with Lisa for many years, and I absolutely enjoyed working with her and learning from her again tonight. So wonderful job, Lisa, if you're still there. And I'm excited to talk to everyone today about the old cliche of voice and choice, which I fully agree with. And I also like the idea of going above and beyond voice and choice and having students create student media or student reflection. So those are some of the things that I'm going to talk about today. I'm really lucky. I am going to talk a little bit about my foundation of being from a very, very, very small town in Nebraska. So I am familiar with what it's like in some of the public schools and small town schools and village schools. Of course, not exactly the same as our participants in Africa, but I do know what it's like to be in a low technology environment as well as a high technology environment. And I'm excited to share about some of the things that might work in your school. And I encourage you to look for opportunities to scale my ideas up and down and recycle and just see if any of them might work for you. And I would absolutely love, and I would enjoy connecting. So feel free to reach out in any of these ways below on Twitter or LinkedIn. I also have a professional Facebook page as well. Feel free to reach out in any of those ways. Feel free to take a screenshot as well. I'm really lucky. This last year, I've added the Apple Learning Coach program to my toolbox of skills, and I also became the Leadership Academy ambassador and an Apple Learning Academy ambassador, and I've been a distinguished educator from Apple since
Hello.
2013. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you
Okay. Your
able to hear
screen.
me?
Your screen is blurry. I think it's getting
Okay.
better.
Okay.
We couldn't see clearly, but it's a
Okay.
bit better, but it's just slightly blurry. I don't know if it's something you can attend to.
Okay. I'm actually not positive. I'm wondering if I disconnect a monitor, if that might help. I am on campus, and our connection is usually quite good. Is it any better at all now?
Okay. Yeah, it's looking better. Not completely
Okay.
clear, but I think much better. We can
Okay.
proceed with this.
Okay. Thank you for that feedback.
You're
All
welcome.
right. I will share. I'm very excited to be in this conference for a second year. And I'm also happy that I've been able to work with many of the presenters and learn from others. So I'm really excited to continue to learn from others. Our goals for today is some big picture thinking. I'm going to share my why behind what I do in my classes and share some student success stories while also protecting student identity. And I'll provide some tips and tools. This is my home. I always joke with students, especially the younger kids don't really get my joke anymore. Some of you may. I ask my students where they think I'm from when they see this picture, and many of them think that I am from and I joke that I'm from the old Windows 95 background. My home is absolutely beautiful, especially during the summer and spring, and that is in Nebraska. So Nebraska is right in the middle of the United States. I'm from a very rural town in Nebraska. This is actually our main street, so I'm from a very, very small town, but I'm also very lucky. My favorite teacher in my high school was she was in control of the only internet connection in our tiny town, but she invested a lot of time in me, and she even created an extra class for me when she saw that I liked computers. She even encouraged me to present at a teacher conference when I was a senior in high school to share some of the things that I was learning when I was in high school. So I'm so thankful for my wonderful high school teacher. I was able to spend some time with her son this summer. This is an AI version of what my town looks like, and quite honestly, this aerial version is quite good. This is from Apple Gemini. What I loved about this teacher, and I still try to follow many, many years later, is that she said that she will make time to allow me to use internet many times, but she always made me show her my plan on paper first. So that was such a great lesson that she instilled in me at a very, very early age. I'm also very lucky that that at Hanam University, when I taught media classes at Hanam University, even though I taught media classes, we really didn't have very much technology. And that's where I became an Apple Distinguished Educator. We had one school Mac, and I brought my personal computer to school every day. And with that, we were able to create media to attract students from other countries to come to our wonderful university. In Korea, the government decides how many students you can have, and the only way you can go above that quota is by recruiting international students. So I got my students involved, and we were able to recruit students from other countries by creating student media. And it was somewhat low technology with Apple iMovie, and we were able to create media that made and blogs, and we were able to get other students from other countries to want to come to Korea. And that is basically how I became an Apple Distinguished Educator. And what I absolutely love to do is to share what my students are doing on a big stage or in a breakout session at Apple Distinguished Educator conferences around the world. So I've been lucky enough to do that for more than 10 years in several different countries. So that is enough about me, but I do want to show that I did start at a very small town, and I think that is kind of what led me to try to make connections with people around the world. What I loved is having my students in Korea interacting with students in Japan, and actually when we were able to present what we learned with Dr. Aiko Otani from Japan, we shared what we did in Singapore. And that is how I became interested in the region of Singapore and Malaysia. Last year, actually in 2023, I became a Google certified innovator. So that has also opened a great opportunity for me to connect. And I would love, love, love to connect with some of you after today. I love this quote. The goal of we've all heard that we should try to make our classrooms more exciting. I actually don't agree. I think the goal of great teachers should not be to make classes more exciting. I think the goal of great teachers should be to make students more curious, because I think that curious students is what makes a classroom exciting. And so I enjoy helping students become curious and use their voices, and I'll share some of that today. But first, let's play a game. In the USA, a fun game is called Family Feud, where they go out and they they survey about 100 people, and then you have to guess what those people think the answer is. So let's play a simple game. And to be honest, I did not go out and interview 100 people. I used Google Gemini to come up with an idea. What are some reasons that you as teachers, I encourage you to type some answers in the chat group. What are some reasons why you think that students do not speak up in class? I encourage you to type some questions. While I'm doing that, I'll ask or type some ideas. While I do that, I'll ask if the screen is less blurry. Thank you, Isaac, for sharing shyness, phobia, low self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, fear of being wrong, thank you, lacking expression and confidence, low self-esteem, thank you for this participation, distractions, self-involved, so many good ones, and I'm missing some great ones. So I'm going to share what Gemini suggests, and Before I do that, I'll actually share that I agree with this. And before I even share more, I will say that I'll share some ideas and then I'll share more. Here are some reasons that Gemini thought that people might say, or that students might say, why they do not share. Let me know if you think that you agree with some of these. And the game show is actually a lot of fun, where they slowly unravel each one from the 8th biggest one to the most responded one, and they give more points for each one. So thanks for that participation. I'm going to change the question very slightly. What are some reasons why you think teachers say that they don't create an environment for students to speak up? So why do you think that teachers do not create environments that encourage students to speak up more? And I see that I don't like the way I worded that question, so I'm going to actually change it while I'm here. This is what I meant to type. Sorry that the screen is blurry again. They think the lessons might be distracted. I am sorry about this blurry screen. I will close a couple. I have most of my apps closed. Class control. And I'm going to read the slides. I did share some slides just about 20 minutes ago with Mr. Rotimi, so he may be able to share them recently. We had some access issues, but I think that we'll be able to fix that soon. So I'm going to go back because I hear the screen is blurry. The top 8 reasons for why students, according to Gemini, say that they don't speak up is they're afraid of being wrong, they are simply shy, they don't know the answer, similar to 1. They don't want to be seen as a know-it-all. They may be bored or not paying attention. They may be too tired or sleepy, very similar. Other people may speak too quickly, or they don't have confidence in English. All of those are very valid reasons. Some are more valid than others, but all of them apply to some people at different times. I'm going to go to the ones why teachers may not create an environment where students speak up more. Fear of losing control of class. I saw that in the chat group. Time constraints due to curriculum expectations. Perceptions of student readiness. Simple pedagogy beliefs and personal teaching style. Assessment and accountability, very similar to number 2. And perceptions of if the students are ready. I want to be very clear that my lesson today is not necessarily about student engagement at the moment, but I do feel like what we do ends up with a more lively classroom, and basically it leads to more participation in my class. My why I do this is basically from John Dewey, who created the Dewey Decimal System. He's an educator and philosopher who was very influential in the USA. He said that we do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. So I am very big at having students record their voice as they reflect on experience, but we also do that in real time without technology as well. So I absolutely love that quote, and I use that for a lot of my curriculum design. And also Holly Clark, I was able to learn from her in Hong Kong just a couple of years ago. I've listened to her podcast many times, read her books, look her up on YouTube, etc. I like that she just says, have the students press record, of course, with safety constraints. A lot of teachers don't do it because they are afraid that it'll take a very long time to listen to all the recorded audio. But she says that it's not really about the teachers and that you don't even have to listen to all of the recordings for the students to find value, because the students learn so much through solid practice. And I'm going to share today some of the things that I have done to help the students get some really good practice of speaking by recording their voice, making some simple media, and that also leads to real-time discussion. So I'm hoping that the screen is a little bit better, but to be honest, with time restraints, I should probably move on either way. And here's another part of my big why, and I'm sure I've gotten this from someone else, but I'm not sure why. Basically, our students work extremely hard. I think all of us can remember times when we were in college and we worked really hard in high school, elementary school, etc. We worked really hard on a project and we just waited and waited and waited for feedback until our professor or teacher was able to give us feedback. One person saw our work and then they gave us some feedback, and then by that time we almost forgot reading it. A busy teacher, of course, is going to take a day or two to respond to a lot of work. It may take a week or two for super busy teachers, and I'm really trying to avoid the situation where students are working extremely hard for an audience of one. I really tried to get them to have a more authentic audience, even if it's just peers in the class. I feel that that's very valuable for the kids. I feel that creating an authentic audience for students gives them meaning and ownership behind their hard work, and that leads them to want to work harder and to do their best job when they know that their peers and other people will see their work. For example, I was actually a paid sports reporter in that tiny town that I shared with you. When I was in high school for part of 4 years, I was a sports reporter for our tiny newspaper. And so I cared a ton about improving my punctuation skills, my writing skills, and my English classes because I knew that people were going to be reading my article and every week. So that was always, I think that was a foundation for me to really try to get kids an authentic voice. I think that our authentic audience, our campuses are a very safe and nearly perfect environment to find an authentic audience and to come up with authentic ideas for creating different media. So my goal in 40 seconds, as you can see, kind of the big picture, I'm going to share a little bit of student success stories and some tips. And again, please try to reduce or expand my ideas, try to reuse them, recycle them, and find a way that they might fit in your content or in your context. I'm going to share a video. I purposely blurred it for student privacy, but this is what my classroom looks like. Audio, I hope, will come through. I'll go to play mode. You can see that the students are actively engaged. You'll see that we are very lucky to have one-to-one iPads, but that is not required. My students come to class. My students come to class, they know that they're going to listen to me for about 10 or 15 minutes. They're going to get really clear on what they're going to create. I help them with some sentence structure. I give them some clear direction, and then they are off to create. And then the last 5 minutes, they're sharing what they made with their peers. And so here's an example. And again, I purposely blurred the video to protect student privacy. And I read. So I'm going to move on. And what this was, that was early last year. They are simply responding to the prompt, what is one element of success? And basically, they came up as grade 4 students. They came up with ideas that they think can make a student successful. And then we released that to our peers in our school. And then people were able to learn from what our grade 4 students thought makes a student successful. So probably in the back of your mind or the front of your mind is you may or may not have one-to-one devices, and that is extremely understandable. You may or may not have too many devices, but I do want to say that for recording audio, almost any old smartphone can be used as a wonderful microphone, and of course you can do it as a station, and I would encourage you to use student leaders as somebody to kind of manage. So kind of wiping a device and just using it as a voice recorder can be extremely effective. Here's some advice. I'm going to start, I'll share a couple of these. I'll actually probably come back to this slide. I have some full screen slides that might be more effective. So one thing that we did this week is we have a lot of new students on our campus, as we do at most years at an international school. Students come and go, and we keep growing every year. And so we came up with the idea, how can we make our campus more friendly? And basically, we came up with the idea that if a critical mass of our students have an idea of 1 or 2 things that that other individuals in our school care about and enjoy talking about and never get tired of talking about, then the long lunch lines will be more friendly. The playground will be more friendly. People will be more comfortable talking to each other. And so I use Keynote, but you could do it with paper as well. And basically, I have students recording their voice, sharing. We made some interactive posters where they record their voice. And basically, they talked about one thing with 2 details of why they love talking about a certain thing, or they shared 2 examples. I'm not going to share student examples, but at this moment, because of the faces, but at the moment, we do have, I just counted outside, we have more than 60 posters posted around campus, and in Keynote, I can export that as a video after they record their voice, and we have a YouTube video that's more than 30 minutes that a student can watch, and they can learn from a whole bunch of students about something that they enjoy talking about. And I asked my students yesterday and the day before, and they said that campus is already, that they feel comfortable talking to at least one new student because of this very simple campaign that we did just over the course of 2 weeks. This might be an example. I think you can hear it. And that is simply what I had my grade 1 students do. And our kindergarten teacher reached out and she said, we want to do this too. So we're going to include kindergarten next week. And the older kids, of course, I require them to give more details. I'm going to share some quick tips. I'll check the chat real quick. I won't be able to pay a ton of attention to the chat. Is the screen more clear recently?
Still blurry.
Is it still blurry?
Yeah, it is.
I'm very sorry about that.
It's okay, so we can carry on.
Yeah. Some quick tips is before they start creating a lot of media, I would have them start with answers that they know. I always do quick review of something that we learned, and we use hobbies. So when I'm teaching the tech, I don't have them create media on the content that they just learned. I usually have them talk about hobbies just to get them started so they can focus on the tech. I provide tons of sentence starters. A lot of reasons why students are afraid to record their voice or to speak up in class is because of grammar, especially in a second language and or second or third language. So I provide a lot of sentence starters so that it's easy for them to, so that they're not too worried about the grammar or the structure of a sentence. Here's an example of one. If the screen's blurry, you probably won't be able to see it, but basically I create some sentence structures with some spaces for them to be able to record, fill in the blanks. And then their opinions make it all come alive. And I always encourage the students to do more than what I provide as a sentence structure to expand upon the sentence starters. One thing that I kind of stumbled upon, because at first I realized I was asking too much when I moved from secondary school to elementary school. So one thing that I stumbled upon this, it works really, really, really well. I have the kids come together and we basically create a script together. And I get a lot of students' opinions. What we use is for our digital portfolio. I have them talk about a favorite project, and then we create a script together, and then basically they record their voice, and then they add their own opinion and personalize the script that the group came up with. That works extremely, extremely well. Here's an example of a digital portfolio where basically I created a 33-page Keynote template, and the students were, at first they're like, there's no way we can complete a template of 33 pages. But I also created lots of, over here, I can pull out the notes when they make the screen smaller. So they have sentence structures over here or ideas of how to go further. And again, I had a false start on this. I had big goals last year, and then I realized that it was too hard for kids, even though I created some starters. At the beginning of the year, it was too hard. Halfway through the year, they were doing absolutely fine. And that's when I started having where I started to model for the kids how to have real reflection on their learning. And I'm really proud of the digital portfolios that the kids were able to create. Another quick tip is to help that's the same thing. Help the group create a script through group discussion and reflection. Then we type or write it out. And here's a first page. I can't show too much of that portfolio for student protection, but basically I had 33 pages of a portfolio, and in that portfolio it included a little bit about each student, their reflections on their school and their place in their school. They talked, and then for every homeroom subject, for their math, their science, their social studies, they chose their favorite topic. They took a photo of it and they did authentic reflection and recorded their voice. And then the same with their specialist classes, their technology class, their PE, their art, their music. We have our GLOs, which are general learning outcomes, our character building objectives, and a field trip. And those are the things that made up their digital portfolio. So they had a beautiful multimedia interactive portfolio that we could share with parents at the end of the school year. Parent-teacher conferences for me are a lot of fun because parents love hearing their students' voices. Screen recordings on any device are extremely well and work extremely well. What I make sure is I start small. I have students make a 30-second screen recording, maybe 10 seconds at the beginning, and let them build up. And I know that there may not be one-to-one devices, but if they plan ahead, I'll let them use my device, and we do a quick screen recording, and I use the frame of having them help the younger kids to learn something that they worked hard to learn, to simplify something that they learned in class to make it easier for next year's class. And then I do save them and I do show them the next year. And again, parent-teacher conferences for me are an absolute breeze because I have the students' voices and I have their reflection on their learning. And I still remember in secondary a couple of years ago, I actually saw the student this morning at the SAT test that I proctored. And I remember when his mother told me that she could not believe that was her son talking. She had never heard his broadcast voice or his voice that he would use to present, especially in a second language. And she was extremely proud of him. So I remember feeling great that she had that pride in her son. One thing that I don't do, that I used to do, is I don't let the kids leave the classroom. Basically, the doors opening and closing, that ends up becoming more distracting than peers' voices. You could hear in that video that I shared you could hear in the video I shared that there's a lot of kids talking. And I actually tell them that if I hear other kids in the background, that's actually a good thing because it means everyone's speaking up. And I have a classroom culture of a lot of kids talking during creation time. And of course, that doesn't hurt their voices. And then when it comes to final project, like the best of the class, I might encourage them to, I might be able to protect the environment. But another thing is they do wonderful problem solving, and they will actually nicely ask their peers to be quiet when they're really ready for a polished final copy. My classes can be as large as 31. Yesterday I had 31 kids. It wasn't yesterday, but a couple days ago, I had 31 kids in here creating, and it just works. It takes some time. It takes some getting used to. It's not, it can become loud, but I'm comfortable with the level of having kids speaking out clearly in my class. I'm going to show you in Keynote, and I know that we have many devices, but in Keynote, it's extremely simple to record your voice. You can go up to Media up here, and this is built in any Mac and iPad, and it is as simple as clicking right up here where it says record audio. And then I press a red button. The red button is also a stop button. Hello, everybody. I hope that you get a few ideas that might work in your classroom. Then you can simply click it and play it. And it purposely made it soft because I am also broadcasting right now, but normally it'll come up really loud, really clear, and it works very, very well. And then you can airdrop this to each other, and it works extremely well in my class. The kids as early as grade 1 are able to do that after 1 or 2 classes. Again, I share lots of sentence starters and sentence frames. That way the grammar and the fear of not knowing how to construct a sentence or a paragraph does not keep them from speaking up. I understand that I have a little more than 5 minutes left. It may be overwhelming to go from a regular class to a classroom of 31 kids speaking. So it can start as small as one table where they go to one corner of the room when they're ready to record their voice. It works extremely well for me. And quite honestly, that is how I started. And I think a big, very important part at any time of trying to change the culture of a classroom is to model it for your students. I'm trying new technology many times. I tell the kids that I may or may not get it right, but I am willing to try in front of them, and that I can add value even though it's not perfect. I buy very inexpensive microphones. When I talk very inexpensive, this one I think is under $2 US, and it lasts easily more than a year. Whatever kind of online shopping platforms are available in your country, there's probably a lapel mic or a lavalier mic for under $3 US. Obviously, we're not going to be buying a whole bunch for every student, but my kids get pretty good at sharing them. I want to share that Canva is, as you probably know, is free for teachers, and a basic entry point for students is also free. And in Canva, you can also record your voice, so you don't have to use, you don't need an Apple device, of course. And I thought that I had a screenshot, but I will simply share that in Canva, you go to the same place where you upload a video. Sorry, I'll start over. Same place where you upload a photo is where now there's a button right underneath that says record audio or record yourself, I think is what it says. And then you can actually turn any device into a microphone, and it actually works very well. If you get to the point where you're ready to go a little bit deeper, student podcast, I always make sure that I say that podcasts do not have to be 30 minutes or longer. They can be a 3-minute podcast or a 1-minute podcast. During the pandemic, I had students, we had a podcast on both Google Podcasts, I believe it was called, and Apple's podcast platform. And they were basically talking about how they're adapting to the pandemic, and it worked extremely well. And we used Anchor FM, which is purchased by Spotify, and Spotify still allows for it to be free. Apple Clips is what I love to use. I won't talk too much about it because I know that it doesn't apply to most of you, but if you possibly have an iPhone, it's free on an iPhone or an iPad, and I encourage you to explore. It's also fun to make short teacher videos to help your students learn. And all of this leads to what we started in elementary school last year of trying to either solve a real world problem or take something that's already working, some opportunity, and make it 5 or 10% better. And last year, my grade 3 and 4 students were able to create some projects that worked extremely well. I'll give you 3 very short examples. Is basically some students realized that kids were cutting in line on Friday at lunch when the whole school eats together. And so they created they did interviews, they came up with ideas, they chose one solution, they created a poster and video campaign, and they came up with the slogan that everyone whines when you cut in line. I thought that was really clever. Another group of kids with clips, they made a really influential video talking about, sorry, I'll shut off my timer. They made an influential video that anyone can be a superhero. You don't need to have a cape to be a superhero. If you see a friend who's down on campus or a friend of friend, that it's all of our responsibility to try to cheer them up or to listen to them. So that was grade 4 students showing how to try to solve a real world problem. And another group tried to solve a problem of running in the hall. Next week, and I think I'll close with this, next week is Internet Safety Week. And I love that for Internet Safety Week, I will be able to share a website with our entire secondary school that is nothing but media that was created by past students. We created a legacy project where every year we made new videos about how will you respond if you are ever cyberbullied. And so we have a bunch of videos from, and they're not necessarily high tech, but a lot of students who are comfortable sharing a little bit. We went through a unit on how to protect yourself, and we have a website of many students who they already respect and graduates who they remember when they were on campus talking about ways that they can protect themselves. And I'm really proud of that website. So again, for student identity, for protecting student identity, I won't share that website, but it is a beautiful website that they made in Google Sites, and it's nothing but media created by my students. So I think that's probably a good time to end, plus the time says to end. Thank you. Warm wishes from Malaysia. I hope it's beautiful where you are as well. And again, here's my contact information. I'm sorry that the screen was blurry today. And I encourage you to reach out, and I'll look for a way to share slides in another way on another day. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Right, thank you very much. Much appreciated. And thanks for the offer. Yeah, we'll get that slide and then send it across to everyone.